I enter social interactions, I can tell how people really are, beyond the social mask they put on. So my credentials for this video are hundreds of hours in group therapy, relationship with narcissistic people. Guys, you need to watch this video till the very end, because the very end is going to expose literally some parts of human interaction, and this part at the end will change your life. Let's get on with my credentials and step 1. And also, why do you fucking watch this video? I think my bet is that you are insecure to some extent, aren't we all, in social interactions? And thus you want to absorb everything from an observer's perspective, you know? You want to leave that kind of participant experience that's kind of awkward, that's kind of weird and maybe anxiety inducing, which is totally understandable. You want to leave that and be kind of above everybody else by analyzing them. How do I know that? Yeah, I know a lot about you already, and I do think that to analyze other people, you need to start with yourself. And a lot of people are fucking scared of that. I understand, but this is not going to be some video where you manipulate your way into social interactions. This is going to be a video where I'm for real with you and where I actually tell you stuff about yourself as well that you don't want to know, because that's exactly what helps you creepily analyze other people. And just know, warning, it can get addictive, and it can also get a lot in your mind so that you know all of these things about other people that they haven't even said yet, and it gets exhausting. So what you want to start with, nobody is purposefully evil. Maybe some of your family members are, or you think they are. Congratulations, you've made it in life. You have an evil family member. I'm so sorry. But nobody is evil. The thing is, I have been to a lot of psychiatric hospitals as a patient and also as an observer. You know, I know a lot of people or a lot of stereotypes of mental illnesses. And mental illnesses generally are just extreme forms of people behaving a certain way in social interactions. You know, almost all personal problems can be related to interpersonal relationships. That's just a theory by Adler, who was a psychologist, philosophist, I think. And so that's why, really, when, for instance, I sit in group therapy with a person with narcissistic personality disorder, I know their deep layers. I know how they've been fucking hurt before. And a lot of people put on a certain social mask, which is completely natural, as I'm gonna explain, maybe, except if I forget, then I'm not gonna explain. So for instance, this guy, he sits in therapy and he looks perfect on the outside, to a point where you ask yourself, why is this guy even in a psychiatric hospital? And that is exactly the point. You know, sometimes even in social situations, even at school, high school, work, whatever, you see people who appear cool, who appear laid back to a point where it's unnatural. And you're gonna get a feeling for that, I promise. Most of the times they're just helpless people. So he looked perfect on the outside, but he had some tiny things that I remarked. And then that was confirmed by when he opened up in group therapy and actually spoke about how he was feeling. And he was feeling so insecure. It was such a fucking struggle because he lacks this sense of empathy, which makes him really be or feel alienated to everyone around them, you know? And so for instance, if somebody in your life seems super duper confident, super duper, whoa, I'm untouchable, likely they are very fucking isolated on the inside. And how that shows on the outside is kind of paradox or almost reverse, but a lot of things in social interactions are reversed. Like how you feel versus how you act. A lot of people overplay their insecurities, and this guy, for instance, he then adds an extra layer of artificial empathy to make up for the lack of empathy that he's feeling. Things are never the way they seem. So that's the first thing you gotta know. People are not evil. Things are never the way that they seem. And of course, maybe you don't want to hear this because you want some manipulative kind of bullshit or some lady to explain to you how to read people perfectly without analyzing your own psyche as well and without being sad. But you need an openness. You know, you cannot just put people into boxes. You cannot just be like, oh, this person's narcissistic. You deserve, and they deserve, that kind of openness where you can communicate about such things and where you can really get to know them first. Because a lot of people as well, this is another fun fact about people, which is kind of a sad fact actually. So a lot of people, this fact is so tragic. They expect this immediate spark when it comes to romantic relationships. If that doesn't come, they get scared of being disliked, basically. So they just want a spark to kind of prove that they are desired, which is not, you might think it's the opposite, that they, you know, want to feel attracted to one person instantly. Nah, they're just scared. A lot of people are just fucking afraid. Deep down, everybody wants to be loved, but a lot of people just talk about the weather. You know, for instance, right now it's very fucking cold. And a lot of people bring that up whenever they don't have anything to talk about. I have been in relationships with, again, I do not want to classify them as such, but with people whose mental health symptoms are very obvious, and they have even told me about their diagnoses. I know a lot about how those people act. They, for instance, get very fucking angry at you and kind of push you away instantly, or they, you know, act hot and cold towards you. You know, my boyfriend did that, and it's very hurtful to me. But just the amount of time that they still invest in your relationship, even if it's kind of time where they scream at you, it is still a form of love, which just shows that they are fucking scared and that they do not know what to do. If love in childhood felt like pain, they are gonna project that onto you. Treat everybody else like children. Not all the time, and not literally. Nappy change. Everybody has kind of wounded child parts that emerge. So this happened to me by a family member actually, and they were very overwhelmed with a certain situation. So you would think that a person who is mature or who is healed enough would say, oh, I'm overwhelmed by this situation, I'm sorry, I'm just going to reflect about it, or what do you think about it? But instead people immediately act, they fall back into old patterns. And so this person, they completely ignored me, as in they didn't even dare to look at me anymore. It was kind of a little bit pathetic, because this person we're talking about is 55 years old, and they just looked away whenever I entered the room and were just like, which is like, what the fuck? Are you playing hide and seek? Are you fucking kidding me? And obviously that experience was very upsetting for me, because it was my uncle and I look up to him immensely and he is very important to me. You know, he was a big part of my upbringing as well. And so I was very upset. But then I kind of imagined him as a child kind of being overwhelmed by his parents and just ignoring them, looking away, kind of playing really fucking hide and seek. And a lot of people behave that way. If you want to play, let's just hide for fucking real. And so yeah, I kind of try and separate that from, you know, our interactions. A lot of things that people do, they have nothing to do with you and a lot to do with parents. You know, I also read this book about basically romantic relationships, and how in romantic relationships or even in intimate situations, there's always parents, not presents. Parents are not presents. I mean, sometimes they are. Are your parents a present to you? So they are always present, kind of. And so these wounded children, trust me, this will make sense, are interacting a lot with their parents, but through you see? So you are basically a projection wall for a lot of stuff happening. And do not take anything personal. That's the thing, but you also need to maintain boundaries at the same time, which is why ultimately self-awareness kind of sucks, or like analyzing situations also sucks a little bit, because you know all of these people, you know everything about them, you have empathy for them, but at the same time you need to protect yourself. So you can't be like, oh, this person was so traumatized by their dad who, you know, did stuff to them, I must now help them because I know that stuff about them, but they don't want to communicate. Listen, sometimes people don't want to communicate, and that is the sad truth, because they can't. people just have that barrier between themselves and the outer world because they're so scared, they're so wounded, their inner child is wounded, and they don't know how to act, and so they just push people away. That has nothing to do with you, and I'm still sorry if it affects you.
People choose how to present themselves. Should I show how I am?
Yeah, let me just end this right here because I'm getting insecure. I'm just gonna end this right here. Alright. Let me give you a hug. Goodbye. I love you. Okay, see ya. And then you worry or wonder, why didn't they say that they like me? Well, they edited that part out. They do like you. Okay, see ya. Ew, why did I say see ya? That's such a weird thing to say. Oh my fucking god.